stressed out.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was working and then it went off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I heard him talking. I was like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Could actually hear him talking.
Yeah.
When we were talking.
Yeah. I powered through and then he was
Yeah.
like, hold on. Yeah. We're gonna try again. All right. I think we're all set to go. Where should I start from, Quinn? Right from the top. All right. Take two. Okay. Welcome to the Yarmouth Area Chamber of Commerce, a Yarmouth Provincial Election Candidates Debate, sponsored by the Nova Scotia Realtor Association. My name is Kevin Northup. I'm one of the moderators for the debate this afternoon, and I'm with Y95 CJLS and a reporter and anchor for Acadia Broadcasting Limited.
So, bonjour, good day, Kwe. I'm the other moderator. I'm Jamie Vecchon. I'm a board member with the Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to get started off with the land acknowledgement. The Mi'kmaq land acknowledgement. The Rod Grand Hotel is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq and Maliseet people first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Maliseet title and established the rules for what was an ongoing relationship between the nations. The African Nova Scotian Acknowledgement. We recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people who form part of over 52 historical land-based communities, whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched the part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years.
Rules surround the process for the debate this afternoon. Each candidate going to get 90 seconds to do their introductions and then per question. So please take note of the monitor with the countdown. It will flash red when you're close to the end of your time. The order by which the candidates respond is randomized ahead of time. However, rebuttals and follow-up conversation will be ad hoc, so please only one person at a time. Closing marks are subject to the same time constraints. Want to introduce our candidates for today. We have Liberal Leader of Nova Scotia, the Honourable Zach Churchill, with us. We have Progressive Conservative candidate Nick Hilton, and we have Green Party candidate Adam Randall joining us today for the debate. So we're going to start off with the introductions, and we'll start with Zach.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, folks. Great to see everybody here today, and thank you for tuning in online. I've had the great honor of representing this area for 14 years, and we have had to fight for what we've gotten down here, whether it's the ferry, keeping our riding together, keeping the art gallery, protecting our fishing sector. I've had the great privilege of representing this area and pushing back against my own party, our own government, and the federal government to do that. We have a real opportunity now to have a leader and a premier from this area for the first time in our history. I think that's important for our area to be represented in this way. It's our turn to lead, and I think if I am given the chance to form a government, we can really tackle the issues that are affecting people's lives right now. The high cost of living, the high taxes, the housing crisis that is seeing homelessness triple in this province, and the fact that our healthcare system is getting worse and worse and worse, and less doctors are getting into family medicine, and less people have access to a family doctor. We have a real plan that can put $3,000 back into the pockets of Nova Scotians in tax reforms and tax cuts. We are going to systematically tackle the high cost of groceries and power bills in this province. We're the only party that's committing to build new homes that we need right now desperately more than ever before, and ensure that new homes that are built are going to be affordable for those that need it. And if we don't deal with people's health and just keep throwing expensive Band-Aids at our healthcare system, we are going to be chasing our tail for a very long time. So we want to build collaborative care centers from one end of the province to the other that will help bring more doctors back to family medicine, attach patients to family doctors, but most importantly, do a better job diagnosing illnesses early, helping people better manage their chronic conditions so that people in this province can live longer, healthier, happier lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you, Kevin and Jamie in the Chamber of Commerce for having us here today. I'm going to start off a little different and tell you a little bit about myself and how I ended up on the stage here with these two gentlemen, and thank you again for both being here. My name is Nick Hilton. I'm born and raised here in Yarmouth, the same as these two, growing up with Zach, going to school with Zach and Adam as well. And I now live here with my wife and stepdaughter, and been a nurse here for 21 years at the Yarmouth Regional Hospital. Been a volunteer in several local organizations, president of the Curling and Golf Club, 4-H member, long-term, just genuine supporter of Yarmouth County. And 4 years ago ran for municipal council and was elected, and still am elected, supporting Yarmouth at a different level of government, but still in the same way. And many of the things at that table affect the things at this table, and we're seeing success in those areas through the Mariner Center ground search and rescue, or Mariner Center expansion, providing sustainable funding for ground search, building the splash park and playgrounds, supporting organizations like the Farmers Market and other 4-H clubs. So in the last 6 months, we've seen Tim Houston here more times than previous. We've seen more things happen funding-wise in Yarmouth County in the past year through the announcement to continue the Ferry terminal, the ER breaking ground in the spring, wastewater treatment funding. We're seeing the PC government invest in Yarmouth County housing on Shaw Avenue. We're seeing the PC government invest in Yarmouth County. The PC government is the only one that has
Thank you,
a
Nick.
plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Adam?
Hi. I'd like to also acknowledge that we are operating on the Micmac land, and I operate on the land too. That was the first line in the Green Party's policy. I haven't read the whole policy. I'm not a career politician, and I'm looking at building a brand, and so that's why I'm here. When I looked at how the Micmac people lived before we came, it seems that they lived in harmony with our environment, and that they had things pretty much figured out. And I feel like maybe the way that we're operating right now, we're kind of going awry. And I feel that Yarmouth is a good place where we can maybe get back to nature and live in harmony with our environment. So I feel that the Green Party embodies what I believe. And I haven't really done a whole lot of research, and I'm pretty ignorant in a lot of ways. But I'd like to help build this brand of the Green Party and work towards a better future. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, so we're going to get right into the questions. We'll start off. The public has voiced concerns over the promises made during campaigning and realistic delivery of those promises. What can you, as Yarmouth's future MLA, say to instill trust and credibility that your party is going to make good and be held accountable? And so, Zach, I would ask that you first, and then Adam, and then Nick.
Well, I think the promises that we make people have to be kept. And I certainly don't think I have to point out in this room that this very election itself is a break of Mr. Houston's first law, his first promise to have fixed election dates. We have seen a record of broken promises and promises not kept. I view this platform that we're running on, again, one that is going to make life more affordable for people, that is going to reduce taxes by $3,000 per the average household, that's going to build homes, that's going to deal with the fundamentals of our healthcare system as a contract with Nova Scotians. It is fully costed. We have the most complete plan, well thought out plan of policies. It's not a marketing document like you might see from other parties. This is a real vision on how we can not just help people that are falling behind in this current moment with the cost of living, with lack of housing, with lack of access to health care, but how we can set the next generation up for success in this province. And that has to be something that we do too, because it's not just about the political cycle that we have to focus on. The decisions that we make now in this province, the money that we invest, are going to have an impact one way or another over the next 10, 20 years. We have a plan that I think can carry our province into those years and ensure that people can have more money in their pocket, be healthier and happier.
So next, Adam.
What was the question?
So I'll read it again
Okay,
to make it easier. The public has voiced concerns over the promises made during campaigning and realistic delivery of those promises. What can you, as Yarmouth's future MLA, say to instill trust and credibility that your party is going to make good and be held accountable?
Our party believes in transparency and holding government accountable. So that's why I'm here, watching you too. All right. And I'd also, I feel that it's important, being a corporation myself, being the president of a corporation, I understand that a lot of times that corporations will protect their proprietary information. And, it's really important for companies to do that so they can make profits. I think it's important for there to be transparency when it comes to public spending. And I know that there's certain sectors that hide their pricing, and it's our tax dollars. I try to operate my businesses under the law, and I try to pay my taxes, all of them that are due. So, I've been operating and I've been paying a lot of taxes, and I would like to see accountability for my tax dollars. Thank you.
Nick?
Thank you. Thank you. As a municipal councillor, I have a history of keeping my promises, and I'm taking that to the next level. And our platform is lower taxes, more doctors, and higher wages. And the past 3 years, those things are happening, and the plan that we have is making a difference. As a nurse, that's why I decided to run. It's the first time in over a decade that we've seen significant improvement in healthcare. We have 265 more doctors net in Nova Scotia, almost 2,000 more nurses. Those are the things that are going to make a difference improving healthcare. I was standing on the doorstep of a local physician yesterday, and he was telling me the exact same thing. Until we train enough staff that we can replace the ones that are retiring, that are leaving for other reasons, that are just burnt out, we will not succeed. So training more doctors, more nurses through the platform that we have as the PC government is the only thing that's going to see success. And when we talk about building more collaborative practices, we've put in 75. So yes, we'll continue to put in more programming and more initiatives that help support these platform issues. But the PC government is the only government that has successfully shown that they can provide a platform and succeed with it.
Thank you. Zach?
Rebuttals?
Yep.
Well, I just want people to think about the slogan that Nick just mentioned. Lower taxes, more doctors, and higher wages. It sounds very similar to the platform that Tim Houston ran on last time, to fix health care and to have a better paycheck guarantee for those working in the private sector. And I think if the plan was working, we wouldn't need to have this election called right now to run on the same slogans that the Premier ran on last time. Because here's the reality I think that I'm worried about in healthcare. We've got twice as many people now without a family doctor. We've got emergency room closures that are higher than any other time in recent memory. We have more emergency room deaths than ever before. Some of the highest wound infection rates in the country. I am talking to doctors and nurses and patients from one end of the province to the other. And the sense that I get from them is more of desperation and fear and worry about the state of our healthcare system. And I think we all have to take responsibility for that. I'm a former health minister. All three major parties have had a kick at the can here. Everyone has thrown more money at healthcare, but things have still gotten worse and worse and worse. And we are seeing a lot of money being spent right now on things that are not having the impact that matters on those fundamentals. And I think we have to get back to the most fundamental thing, and that's focusing on things that are going to help improve people's health.
So next would be Adam.
I don't think I have any rebuttals for you.
Nick?
Thank you. So it's easy to say that, but as a healthcare professional, I truly believe that this is the reason I decided to support the PC party. This is the first time in a long time that morale is changing. It's the first time in a long time that we're seeing, you know, you talk about the doctor's list. In the last 2 months, we've taken 20,000 people off the doctor's list in September, and I'm hearing another 12,000 off the list in October. So it's the first time. It takes time, especially when we're in the hole that we were in, to build policy and to provide opportunities for people so that we can grow and work together to better the healthcare system. I do believe that we have several accomplishments, including free tuition for CCAs, free tuition for LPNs, pathway for the CCAs to graduate for LPNs, new nursing school at Acadia, medical school graduating 30 doctors at Cape Breton University in the near future, new paramedic programs right here in Yarmouth. This needs to be more about Yarmouth, allowing professionals like pharmacists to work at their full scope of practice, 75 new collaborative care clinics, an increase in long-term care beds that's never been seen before, including an investment in 21 beds at Yarmouth Heights that we visited this morning, EHS patient transfer planes, delivering patients from Yarmouth to Halifax for non-emergent care. We have created over 1 million new primary care appointments.
I appreciate, we gotta stop there. Thank you.
We do have a lot of ground to cover, and one of those issues here, of course, is the Yarmouth Ferry to Maine, and a progress report on the economic impact of that ferry showed some key facts, namely the ferry generates economic benefit to the whole province and not just Yarmouth. So this question for me here is in two parts. Firstly, do we have the right boat for the service, since it's not designed to carry cargo or tour buses, and what should the province do to ensure the long-term sustainability of the service? We'll start with Adam.
If elected MLA, I will bring 2 cats to Yarmouth. That's my election promise, and if I do not fulfill his promise, I will not run again. Thank you.
Nick?
Yeah, so the PC government has never not had a ferry in Yarmouth County when they were in power. The PC government has shown that they're going to continue to support the Yarmouth Ferry with the recent commitment to another 2 years. And if you were at the announcement, they said that there will be further thought to a long-term commitment of 10 years. So the Yarmouth Ferry is shown through the economic study that shows that it's a success and a good deal for Nova Scotians and a good deal for Yarmouth. And I don't think that in the past there's been a lot of conversation about where it was going. It's not going anywhere, and this PC government fully supports Yarmouth in the ferry. As far as the right type of boat, I think the economic study shows that this current boat is working. Tourism is up. We've seen numbers climb, I think in the latter part of the season, up 18% over last year. We can continue with this boat, but the one thing about this government is they wanted to look at what other options were available. It was never about getting rid of the ferry. It was about what is good for Yarmouth, and right now this is the boat for us.
Zach?
Well, listen, I don't know that people are buying that. I mean, our memories are not that bad here in Yarmouth that we forget when Tim Houston and Jamie Bailey before him attacked this service, called it a waste of money. In Mr. Houston's first year as Premier, he said every Nova Scotian should be embarrassed and worried about the amount of tourists that are traveling on the Cat Ferry, even though that ferry rebounded out of COVID better than BC ferries, better than driving traffic to Ontario. We've known the importance of this for a long time. Nick says, that Tim's been coming down for the last 6 months. I'm happy that he finally cares about this area now that we are right before an election. But the fact is that the economics around this have been very clear from the beginning when we lost it and lost half of our room accommodations, when we fought hard to get it back and rebuilt our tourism economy. And we're talking about a premier here that has broken his word on nearly every single promise. If people trust him with this ferry, that's up to you. He has extended the contract for 1 year. 1 year only. We can't even book bus tours now on that ferry service. Hotels can't get financing from the banks because there's no long-term commitment. There's a simple long-term solution to this. It's to do what we did, sign a 10-year contract, get this done so we can keep building on the great economic success that we have over the last 10 years.
So as a follow-up to that question, is your party, or will your party continue to support the ferry service in Yarmouth in the long term? And that'd be Nick first.
Thank you. Yeah, it was clear at the announcement that this government has there's no thought of removing the ferry from Yarmouth. We are continuing to build on the economic report. We're going to find out what it finally says next year, and there's nothing wrong with the government exploring what the numbers are when it comes to a major investment like $21 million. So no one said that we were going to remove it recently. We're moving on as a county, and you want to have someone at the government table when the decision is made on keeping or on negotiating a long-term contract. So I think it's kind of clear provincially that we're going to have a PC government, and it's important that we have someone at the decision-making table for the next negotiation.
Next would be Adam.
I don't know enough about all the politics involved in the CAT. For me personally, with the cost of living and everything, like I don't have enough time to go to Bar Harbor, and I find the tickets are expensive. I think they're $300 and something for a lot of me and my friends. Like it's just something that's kind of out of reach. So I haven't really spent a whole lot of time on the issue. So I apologize for my ignorance on the CAT.
Thank you. Zach?
Well, listen, I think this election is going to be about trust and who people trust. There's no guarantee of who the government's going to be. We've been surprised before. I think we may be surprised again. But here's a promise I'll make. We'll be in a lot better position on this ferry if Tim Houston's not the premier of this province, and if I am, because that contract will be signed on day one, without question. And I want to point people's attention to the prominent conservatives, even in this area, over the last 10 years, as Tim Houston and Jamie Bailey before him attacked that service, ripped it down, turned the public against it. Where were all the people then? All the conservatives then fighting for this community? The only one that did was Charles Crosby. Everybody else sat by quietly while Tim Houston ripped apart the reputation of the service. And if you think that giving Mr. Houston more yes men in his party to sit around and do his bidding and to remain quiet when he's making decisions that are bad for our economy, that are bad for our communities, I have to tell you, that's not going to do it. The reason Tim Houston has come around on this ferry is because he knows we are willing to fight for it here, because he is scared of bad headlines, he responds and reacts to political pressure, and we need to make sure that that political pressure stays on him, whether he's in government or not.
Thank you. Moving on to the federal government. Oh, Nick? Yeah.
Yeah, so just to speak to that, I think it's important to know that it's not just the Liberals that cared about that ferry, it's the community of Yarmouth that cared about that ferry. And as a PC MLA, I'll be there to step up and support Yarmouth. And I'm excited to work with Tim Houston and our ministers on either side of us in Digby and in Argyle, in Colton LeBlanc, and I know that it's not just, we'll have a better chance of saving the ferry or keeping the ferry or renegotiating the ferry with a complete set of PC candidates, elected PC candidates in Southwest Nova Scotia.
Well, I mean, that sounds like holding it for ransom for me. And I have to say, we need a premier that's going to govern for everybody, that's not just going to invest in areas that that premier holds seats in. I was proud to work under 2 premiers that did that, where conservative seats, NDP seats got new schools, got road investment. If anybody thinks it's a good thing for conservative members to say, well, we'll have a better chance, the only way to protect this is if we hold the seat, think about what kind of government that is. And people need to ask themselves in this community, in this province, if that's the kind of government that they want to support.
No. Thank you. Our next question, the federal government controls enforcement of the Fisheries Act and regulations, but what role do you feel the province of Nova Scotia should have with respect to ensuring all participants are protected in the most important industry for this part of the province? And we'll start with Nick.
Thank you. So we all know fishing is the backbone of our community. That's never been more clear than it is now. When we're talking about small business, large business, economic growth, they all revolve around the fishery here in Yarmouth. So it's clear that we have some issues around illegal fishing that need to be dealt with, and the question is, what's the best way for that to happen? And when it comes right down to it, we need more enforcement on the water by the federal government, by DFO, and we can support that provincially. I think our government has been doing that by hiring extra enforcement, increasing RCMP, but at the end of the day, that's not enough, and we need to work with our federal counterparts to finally put something on paper and for them to enforce the rules of the fishery on the water.
Enforce the provincial buyers.
Thank you. Zach?
Listen, DFO has dropped the ball on this. We have a federal government that is not doing their part to uphold the law. That is something that myself and the MLA for Clare, Ronnie McDonald, have been very clear about. We have pushed the federal government to act. We have pushed members of the federal Liberal Party to be involved in this more, and it's very disappointing to see how this has been handled on the water. And we are committing to build a provincial Office of Commercial Fisheries, whose job it will be to negotiate government to government with the feds on this to support our commercial fisheries, which we will be in terrible economic situation if anything changes there. But the province has a role to play here, and they have been derelict on their duties. People aren't going to go fish illegal lobsters if there's not people to buy it on land. DFO regulates the water. The province regulates the land and what happens with buyers. We had a zero tolerance policy with any commercial buyers who bought illegal lobster fishing. Tim Houston has gotten rid of that. We also only have 2 enforcement officers down here on the provincial side. So not only will we build this new office in the Ministry of Fisheries, but we will also have more enforcement officers on the ground and actually do their job to stop the illegal buying of illegal lobster.
Thank you, Zach.
Long overdue.
Adam?
When it comes to things like this, I think a lot of times, greed will come into play. Everybody wants to make a lot of money. So people get jealous, this guy's allowed to do this and, this person's not. And, when it comes to harvesting, what we have in our area. We need to be accountable for it, and we can't be overfishing. I think that one of the things that comes up a lot when people are talking about this is what's a moderate living. I think that's one of the debates and what people should be entitled to have. So, when it comes to how much we're fishing and putting bans, we need to all work together for this and set down the rules and not be bought or bullied. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Nick?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that the province does need to play a role in this. And I couldn't agree more that the federal government is the one that needs to step up to the plate. So I think as your PC MLA, we're going to be able to work with the PC provincial government and possibly a conservative federal government to undo and provide some of the answers needed to levy or to have DFO have the information they need to be able to enforce the laws on the water, and that will stop some of the, the 30% of illegal lobster that's arriving on our shores, so that we can continue. What I really want to say is that I understand that the province plays that role, but we can't do enough about it as long as those lobsters are coming ashore. So we need to take this as a team approach, and I think we can do that as a PC government.
Deal with the buyers now or 4 years ago?
Thank you. We'll keep the comments to the candidates, please. Zach?
We've got to deal with the buying side of this. There's two sides to this equation. There is what happens on the water, and the issue isn't with the moderate livelihood fishery, which has been going on cooperatively between our bands and the commercial fisheries for 2 decades. It is about the commercial scale fishing illegally in spawning season. So this creates a real, I think, problem for the lobster stock, and we have to take it very seriously. We do have to work with the federal government on this, and that means you actually have to sit at the table and do the work. It doesn't just mean kicking the federal government every chance you get in the media, like is currently happening right now, although I've had to do that too, on occasion myself. But the province needs to take responsibility for this. It's in large part DFO's issue, but people are not going to catch lobsters. They're not going to go out there on the water, spend their gas on bringing up all these illegal lobsters in large scale if they can't sell it to buyers who have the capacity to buy that volume of lobsters and get them to markets. So we have to crack down on the illegal buying, and the province is the jurisdiction, has the jurisdiction on that, and that's something that we will tackle immediately, like we did previously in government and when we were in government.
Thank you. Next question. Internet and cell phone coverage is considered a must, not a have or a want. Unfortunately, for most of Nova Scotians, coverage is spotty at best. With 40% of the province's population considered to be living rurally, what do you feel is the province's role in ensuring that reliable cell service and internet is available to all? And I'd start with Zach.
Well, that is something that we have to do, and we've seen cell coverage get worse and worse and worse. We were part of a government that got our province to 95% connection with high-speed internet. Now we have to tackle that with cell coverage. So we have committed to investing in 87 new cell towers from one end of the province to the other, starting first on the major highways to make sure that we are connected along those highway routes, and then moving out from that. Another big part of the problem here is the amount of people that are using the network. So we have had a premier in place that has been driving to double the population without a plan to keep our infrastructure up with that pace of growth, from our roads to our hospitals, our schools, and our cellular infrastructure as well. So we need to catch up, and we're committed in our platform to building 87 of these, again, beginning on those major highway arteries through the province, which I drive on every week. And it is shocking. That's when I have to get my phone calls done, to call people back in the constituency in particular. And I'm sure anybody who's on those roads, it drives them crazy how many times your calls are going to drop. And that has been getting worse and worse and worse because there hasn't been the investment put in that infrastructure to the extent that we need it.
Nick?
Thank you. The Tim Houston government's already made a $65 million investment in putting up new cell phone towers. Everyone in Yarmouth is well aware that we have cell issues. On the municipal government table, we've worked with Develop Nova Scotia to make sure that everyone in Yarmouth County has access to high-speed internet, and we're doing the same thing with cell phone coverage. So this is an issue that's being addressed. It's an issue that's being funded by the Tim Houston government, and it's an issue that I see will have a resolution in the next short while. And I can't stress more that there's some safety issues attached to that, and we will continue to move forward, and I think this government's doing a good job at doing that.
Thank you. Adam?
I'm in the middle of renovating a home in Pleasant Valley, and the reception there was poor. I got Starlink. It seemed to help out quite a bit. It was $300 investment. I think they have mobile units too. So that's what I did personally. I look at the cell towers. They don't seem too difficult to construct, and I don't see why the government wouldn't be able to invest in that if it's such a priority to everybody. Thank you.
Ronald?
I'll just say, like, there's other infrastructure too that we're falling behind on, particularly our roads. Like, we have the worst roads in the country. StatsCan came out with a report on that recently. We are also committed to finishing our 100 series highways. This is committed to in our platform, as well as twinning the areas where we have the highest volume and greatest safety issues as well. I am worried about the Conservatives' plan to take the tolls off the bridge in Halifax. That is going to be an extremely costly proposition. Not just the $40 million for the tolls themselves to cover that, the maintenance of those bridges that are around $26 million a year, plus the McKay Bridge needs to be replaced in 10 years. We're looking at billion plus money just for that one commitment in the PC platform. That money, I think, is better spent on our roads, so that we can build up the highway infrastructure that we need to get to rural Nova Scotia, so we have safer roads. And so whoever is the next MLA for this area gets less road calls because of potholes and maintenance issues. So certainly I think cell's important, internet's important, we need infrastructure for that, but road infrastructure is absolutely key as well. And we would not put that money on the tolls, we would put it in the roads.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you. There's no other toll highway or toll roads left in Nova Scotia, so it's only fair that people in Halifax experience the same, or in Central experience the same breaks that we do. We're talking about infrastructure. The real question is, what about infrastructure for Yarmouth? We haven't built anything in Yarmouth since the last PC government over 14 years ago, when we built the jail and the courthouse, and invested in wastewater. The wastewater treatment plant. We need to focus on bringing some infrastructure money here to Yarmouth. I couldn't agree more that roads are an issue. We hear that at the municipal table, to the point where the municipality is looking at doing some of the work itself, so on our own roads. So we need, the Tim Houston government has committed $1.3 billion in infrastructure for road improvements, more than any previous government has ever provided. And again, we need an MLA that's going to bring some of that back here to Yarmouth, and I can't stress more that being on the side of government will make it easier to do that.
Thank you. Adam?
What was the question about roads or cell towers?
Cell towers.
Okay. Will you be talking about roads later, or would now be a good opportunity to talk about roads?
By all means, speak about roads.
I brought it up, buddy. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing about roads is transport trucks, and you know, they bring in products from that aren't here that, you know, we could probably produce ourselves. So you know, when it comes to like our weather and our climate, you know, when roads are soft and we have all this additional traffic, heavy traffic on our roads, it could be prevented if we use more local products. So if we were to be a little more investment in our own companies and everything, I'd like to see less heavy vehicles on the road come into here. You know, I'm in the construction business, and we have lots of problems getting products here on time. And if you know, if we had more investment into local manufacturers, I think that would help out roads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. And with elections certainly come promises. And as far as paying for those promises, a lot of people do ask, how will governments pay for those promises? Whether it's reducing the HST, free parking in healthcare facilities, taking off tolls from the bridges, collaborative care clinics, the money has to come from somewhere. So my question is, where can we expect to see cuts coming from, and how do you raise the capital necessary to fund these programs? And the first response goes to Adam.
I didn't get the question, I'm sorry.
So the question is, with all the promises, where can we expect to see cuts coming from to pay for these promises, and how do you raise the capital necessary to fund these programs?
Okay. I find that, you know, we're using, I think most of the funds that Nova Scotia gets is from taxpayers, and you know, it's from work and everything. And I think our provincial economy is about $45 billion, and that the operations that the provincial government do is about 15 billion of that. So, you know, about a third of our spending is provincial spending. So I see lots of ways that we could reduce our spending. So when it comes to all these things that you mentioned, I think if we're a little bit more efficient in the way that we do our work and everything, there's a lot of wasted energy. And if we're to be a little bit more smart on the way we do things, like let's say if we had beef produced locally and then sold to the market here, that would cut out a lot of our waste.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Zach.
Our budget is fully costed for our platform. We've got big initiatives in there that will make life more affordable, will save people money in taxes by cutting the HST by 2 points, by reducing income taxes, and also have major investments in infrastructure. We actually have the revenue to do this right now. It will take fiscal discipline. Mr. Houston has had about $3.5 billion more in revenue, more than any other government in history over the last few years. And a lot of that's come from the federal government, a lot of it's come from the inflation and impact to taxes. But if we just stick to our budget and don't spend $1 billion over it like has happened, we can afford to do all these things. We're fully costed, we're the only platform that's fully costed, and we have the revenues and budget to do this. I do want to go back to the question we had on infrastructure. This idea that you have to be on the government side if your community wants anything, I have a real ethical problem with. We did invest in infrastructure in this community when I was in government. We built 3 new schools, including one in Yarmouth, one in Clare, one in Argyll, in Wedgeport. That needed to happen. That was a conservative seat. I never thought once when I was in government that a community shouldn't get what they deserve or need simply because of what color represents them in the legislature. And I think to propose that in this way is wrong, and I think it speaks to the culture of decision-making with the Conservative Party here in Nova Scotia.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach. Nick. Nick.
Thank you. So I'll just rephrase that. It's important. It's easier to get things done when you're on the side of government. I'll leave it up to Nova Scotians to decide who's going to make up the next government. Now I forgot the question.
It was where can we expect to see cuts coming from to, yeah.
Yeah, so cost of living, we know it's expensive to live in Nova Scotia right now. That's why we've gone back to the polls to get a clear mandate from Nova Scotians. And we know that, our previous mandate was to focus on healthcare, and the next one needs to be to work on the cost of living. And our platform is fully costed as well. And through the one control, make sure that we know where those funds are coming from. And I feel like this government is doing that. We're providing individual, we have to balance spending with, we're going to balance spending with its effect on our residents. And really that's what we need to do as a good government.
Thank you, Nick. Zach?
I think when you look at a lot of money that's being spent currently in Halifax, a lot of conservative-friendly businesses and consulting groups are getting big amounts of money very seriously. A lot of wasted money. Every department but two has overspent in the last 3 years. Every department. The administration in the public service has increased by close to 10 months. We have the revenue for that. If we stick to the budget and don't waste money and do proper procurement, make sure we get the best bang for our buck on every single contract, we can lower your taxes by about $3,000 a year. That's real money for families. That's a year's worth of internet and cell phone bills, 2 kids in hockey, and the family vacation that you deserve.
Thank you, Zach. Nick?
Yeah, we need to continue to realize that we're still working on healthcare here. We were so far in the hole 4 years ago. The Liberals promised a doctor for every Nova Scotian, and at the end of their term had less doctors than they do now, or than they did when they started. This government saving money. We need to make sure that when your family needs a doctor, that there's a doctor available. We have 265 more doctors net, like I mentioned, with opportunities to graduate 75 more each year that are going to work here in Nova Scotia. And like I said, I stood on a doorstep of a local physician who said that is the best way to support healthcare, is to graduate more people. You're increasing the income of your residents, you're increasing the tax base, you're doing all these things. We can do both. We can save Nova Scotians money and provide them the services that they deserve.
Thank you. Next question. In the past, the youth of the day felt they had to head west for jobs. Some still feel that way today.
For skilled trade workers program, which anyone under the age of 30 is, has the ability to stay here, pay less, pay no provincial tax on their first $50,000 of income, low income assistance, houses, and we need skilled workers to pull that off. So the best part about the Tim Houston approach, or the PC government approach, is that it's the only one, our platform is the only one that has a clear plan on how we're going to reach our goals.
Thank you. Zach?
I've talked to a lot of young people across the province, and it's not the lack of jobs now that is driving them out west or creating fear in their ability to build the future here. That's not the issue right now, because we've had good growth over the last decade, and there are jobs available now. Struggling from a mental health perspective, they are literally losing hope, because even though they have a job, full-time job, they're living in their parents' house, they are worried that they'll never be able to get out or find a place to live or a place to buy that they can build their own family in. And I do want people to look at the platforms. Can I say that for a second? I want people to look at our platform, and I want them to compare it to this 12-page brochure that Mr. Houston has. which they call a plan, but which you'll see has more pictures of Mr. Houston in it than new ideas for this province. Go look at ours and compare them and tell me that we don't have a good comprehensive plan to build more housing by dealing with zoning issues, by making it cheaper to build, by allowing prefabrication, tilt-up housing, modular housing, and by investing in the not-for-profit sector to build more deeply affordable units.
Thank you.
I want you to go look at those, and you tell me which one you think is actually a
Thank
plan.
you. Next would be Adam.
Thank you. I'm a product of somebody who had moved out west and came back home. And I'm really grateful for doing that. I learned how to roof, and I didn't think that this was something of value. I underappreciated this. You know, I grew up in an era where education was pushed, and they said, you need this education to become something. While I was in school, I felt, I would be better suited outside. I looked out the window and wished that I could be out in the sun and enjoying it and building. So, I'm a big believer in learning the trades and building. So, building new housing isn't something that I would aspire to do. It's something that I am doing. And, growing up, or even being in the trades then, I didn't realize how valuable it is. But now I see how valuable it is. And I've got a son who I love, Parker, and I'm showing him how to build. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I want to give this opportunity to anybody who wants to come and learn how to build. We're going to have a nice place on the Hard Scratch Road where they can do that.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
I think, the skill building is going to be a challenge. So we are setting a goal of getting 80,000 new homes, new housing units in our province over the next 8 years. We have to hit that number, or our housing crisis is going to get worse and worse and worse. We hear a lot from the current government that they're the only ones that have ever thought about recruiting doctors or building homes. We had 10 net new family doctors last year. 30,000 new people into the province. Housing per capita is in free fall. Doctors per capita is in free fall. So we have less of these things per person here, which is why you are seeing homelessness triple, why you're seeing twice as many people without a family doctor. This is going to be a challenge, so we have to tackle it from a rules-based perspective to make it easier to develop safely and where appropriate. We do also need the labor, and we need to build things that are easier to put up that you don't need all the labor for, like prefabs and modular housing. We need to get more women into our skilled trades workforce. Less than 9% of our skilled trade workers are female. That's half of our pickup on that. If we are planning on targeting bursaries and recruitment efforts to get more women who are living here right now into the skilled trades, and I think that can have a big impact on the amount of people working in our skilled trade sector.
Thank you.
So let's talk about Yarmouth for a second and what we've built in Yarmouth over the last 10 years when it comes to housing, and the answer is nothing. We had some prospects on the table, one being a project at the old high school where I feel like being more housing. The PC government is funding housing across the spectrum. We've seen things like Nova Scotia Community College campuses being built. We need one of those in Yarmouth. Tiny home communities in Sackville, we need some of those in Yarmouth. The PC government created the secondary and backyard suite incentive program to help families. Well, we need to make sure that 24 new low-income houses on Shaw Avenue right here in Yarmouth. All these are proof that the PC government is making a difference, and we need to continue to support these initiatives, and that's why we don't have new things in our platform like a 6-lane bridge.
Thank you.
The 18 to 24 age bracket had the lowest turnout for the 2021 election at 7% of eligible voters. What would you say to those voters, and how do you see getting them more involved in this process? We'll start with Nick.
Well, grade 8 students, and tried to encourage them into becoming involved in politics, showing them that leadership starts when you're that young, and being involved in community starts when you're that young. So I think we need to make and show government make and show our youth that government is important, that that we live in a wonderful country and a wonderful province, that it is because of our democracy that we get the freedoms that we have, and we just need to continue to support our youth so that they know that we care.
Thank you, Nick. Adam.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lack of interest, for our youth. Maybe what what the government's offering doesn't appeal to them. It's not interesting. So they probably don't understand, and a lot of people probably don't understand how important voting is, and how important it is to have a choice and to have accountability. Right? We have two parties here, right? Three, four, right? But really, there's not really a whole, I don't find there's a whole bunch of diversity between the parties, and something that stands out. So, I'm hoping to add a little more color to, the Pepsi Cola challenge. I'd like to offer, something pure, something like water, right?
Thank you, Adam. Zach.
We need to be talking about the issues that matter to our young people. And the folks I've talked about here in Yarmouth and across the province are worried about 3 things primarily that are creating actual stress for them. Housing, and their ability to find a place that's affordable to live once they go to university, or once they are able to move out of their parents' place. Cost of living, the fact that even when you graduate and you're working a job, life is very expensive here. The third thing is also climate change. And young people have a real right to be concerned about all of these 3 things. So we engage them by tackling those things, and not just thinking about election cycles when we govern, but thinking about the next generation of people who will be inheriting our decisions, whether they like it or not. And that is why we've got a real platform, I think, to tackle this housing crisis, to go after it hard so that young people know they will have a place to live when the time is right, so that they know they're not going to live in the highest tax province in the country that is not affordable for them to live in, and so that they know we're actually going to tackle what we need to on climate change, from not just an emissions reduction standpoint, but making sure our coastlines are protected, like by passing the Coastal Protection Act, and ensuring that our industries like fishing and farming are able to adapt to climate change as well.
Nick.
Thank you. I've knocked on over 4,000 doors in the last 3 weeks, and trust in government is an issue. People want change locally, and I'm looking to be a strong MLA for Yarmouth. You talk about young people in the way they view politics. I had a grade 8 student yesterday tell me that the gas tax wasn't even fixing the environment. This is a grade 8 student, and we're the only government that's looking to support the federal government in getting rid of the gas tax. The Liberals have suggested a cap and trade system, which is the exact same thing as a gas tax, just formed in a different way. And any government that's supporting a gas tax right now isn't supporting the residents of Nova Scotia. We, as Nova Scotians, are leading the way environmentally. We are meeting our goals when it comes to greenhouse gases, and we are succeeding, and there's no need to overtax Nova Scotians. You've said it yourself, and it's in your platform to do that.
Thank you, Nick. Zach?
Well, I mean, here's a problem I have with the culture of the Tim Houston government, is honest people like Nick have to say dishonest things to fit into that group. And I mean, to suggest that we shouldn't do anything to price pollution, that doesn't have any impact on emissions, flies against all the evidence out there. Now, how we price pollution really matters. We did not have a carbon tax in Nova Scotia when we were in government. We won't have one if we're reelected, because we will reestablish a cap and trade system that will do our part for the environment by pricing pollution from the bigger emitters, giving that money back to residents here in Nova Scotia to put into their heat pump program, their efficiency program, their solar panel program, to get rebates for your electric vehicles. And we'll take the price off the pump, because we don't have the infrastructure right now, from a public transit perspective, from a charging perspective, to get people out of gas vehicles right now. I myself drive a gas vehicle. So we actually have a plan to do more for the environment and save money at the pumps. This makes more sense to me than just using this carbon tax as a political battering ram because they know it's not popular. Tim Houston has had vote against the carbon tax on political signs for the last 2 years. Guess what? We still have a carbon tax in Nova Scotia. And Tim Houston's charging HST on top of it.
Am I allowed to go again?
I think we've got to move on, Nick, to the next question.
Correct. So we're aware that the next questions are fairly stats heavy, but we want to give you those stats so that you can answer properly. Voter turnout for the last provincial election was around 55% overall. But the highest turnout were in the seniors demographic, 65 plus. Seniors are on a fixed income that really does not keep up with inflation and certainly does not keep up with skyrocketing rent, utilities, and grocery prices. Typically, with elections come promises of change. So what do you feel needs to change for seniors that is going to make them want to vote for you in this election? Adam.
I do not, I don't know how to get the seniors vote. You know, we're looking at, you know, my main things in my campaign is food, shelter, and it's important for them to have those two things. And if they're only making, you know, I don't know how much it costs to live right now, but I know you know they've been getting like $30 or $40 more a check to keep up with inflation, and I think inflation is quite a bit higher than that. So I feel really bad for people who are helpless in the growing economy, and you know, it's a shame. It's a shame that everybody has to work so hard to support the government by having jobs, and they can't afford to take care of their parents anymore. You know, like everybody's trying to keep up with inflation and they forget about living. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach?
Seniors are really struggling right now. You know, a lot of our seniors are on fixed income pensions. Cost of living has gone up 20% on average in Nova Scotia over the last number of years. Watch the news tonight. We announced our seniors platform today, where we'll be doubling the seniors care grant, increasing the income threshold for seniors to be eligible for housing grants and the seniors care grant as well. That's something that can be used for transportation, grocery deliveries, home support, lawn care, that sort of thing. But we also need to invest in home care and seniors housing. We've got a lot of seniors that are living in their single-family houses that want to downsize. They're not able to. Part of our housing plan includes building more senior-specific housing, which will also have the benefit for the seniors that do want to downsize, open up a lot of new single-family houses onto the market for folks that are looking for more housing. And to do that without penalizing seniors too, we'll get rid of the deed transfer tax. Because right now, if you sell your home, a lot of seniors can't get out of their houses right now. It's more expensive. I mean, Mom and I have talked about this. It's more expensive for her to move because of the transfer tax and because rents are so high than it is for her to stay. We can change that and make sure that there's more affordable places for seniors to live and more home care available for those who want to stay in their homes longer.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you. As a nurse, I've spent the last 20 years taking care of many of our community members, many of them seniors. I have a special place in my heart for our senior community, and as your MLA, look forward to supporting that age group as well as all our residents as best as I can. The Seniors Care Grant, which needs to be noted that the Liberal government voted against, that they're now trying to double, is a PC initiative, and so is the home heating bait program. We're looking at a multifaceted approach to trying to keep more money in everyone's pocket, including seniors, by decreasing HST, the indexing of tax brackets, continuing with the Seniors Care Grant, and simple things like removing the cost of parking at all Nova Scotia hospitals. What may be your worst day could be a little bit easier when you don't have to worry about finding money, or your worst month to park at a hospital. So we're continuing to support all Nova Scotians, especially the populations that are at the most risk. And as your MLA here in Yarmouth, I look forward to talking with anyone and everyone that wants to come out and see if I can do something for you.
We'll start off with rebuttal. Adam?
No rebuttal for me.
Just something I'll add too is we can't just look at our seniors as people that need things or that are waiting for long-term care. I mean, the fact remains, evidence in this room, our seniors are our bulk of our volunteer force, still being active, running our service organizations, still in the labor market, working, and I know, as anybody would know here, critical for supporting working parents as well. So it's also, looking at seniors as the vibrant community they are, who are contributing so much, and making it a little easier for those contributions to continue, like doubling the Seniors Care Grant. That was a PC initiative. I've got no problem saying when other parties have a good idea. That's one. We just want to enhance it and make it better. We also want to get the HST off of gym memberships, because we want all people to be active and healthy, and we don't think you should have to pay taxes if you're going to the gym and looking after yourself and are going to save the healthcare system money later on. It's also why we want to invest money in active transportation trails in our communities, and when we build our senior housing, make sure that there is active transportation opportunities around those as well.
Nick?
Yeah, so when I look at Yarmouth, we're talking about active transportation, getting residents, seniors out in the community to do things. And I think specifically about the infrastructure that's here and what we've done over the last 10 years. And I think specifically about the Chabot Meadow Trail and a number of the other trails in the county, and the fact that nothing's accessible and we haven't invested any money in there. So, as your MLA, we need to spend some time focusing on Yarmouth, and to your point, focusing on the community and building things for the population. We're, breaking ground on the new Mariner Center expansion right now. That was a municipally driven project, and the province is stepping up to the table to invest more money in that because of the total cost of the province, and the project. Overall, we need to kind of focus more on Yarmouth, and to your point, to the residents here, and bringing more things back to Yarmouth. So I look forward to having those conversations at the provincial table.
Our next question is, as of November 2024, the median rent in Halifax is $2,300 a month. This is 15% higher than the national average. The living wage is pegged at around $23.50 an hour, which works out to a gross household income of $85,540 for a family, whereas the average income for a single Nova Scotian is far from that. We're sure these stats are not a surprise to you, but what can the province of Nova Scotia do to help people that are renting at these rates get into their own homes and start building equity? And we'll start with Adam.
Like, as a landlord, I deal with tenants and also the responsibility of a landlord. And I find that there's conflict there because it's hard for me to keep up with the cost of material and the cost of labor to keep these aging, I deal mostly with trailers. I'm trying to do new builds now. So it's hard on my end, but it's also hard to, oppress people and try to get a fair wage for the work that I put in. So part of the problem, I feel, is our material and getting it. I feel that, it should be as easy as going into our backyard and cutting down the trees and and a father showing his son how to build his own home. And in the past, that's how Yarmouth was built, I believe, by logging our own wood and building our own homes. I've been looking into a little bit of our forestry, and there's a lot going on with that's been suppressed.
Thank you, Adam. Nick.
Thank you, Kevin. Such deep emotion here today because we all care so much about our community, and trying to get young people into their homes. Over 50% of high school students believe that they may never own a home because of the cost of living and the cost of housing. So this government is doing providing options and for people to get into their own homes. So by lowering the down payment, or working with coastal financial credit unions in the province, lowering the down payment from 5% to 2%, making it more accessible for new people to get into their own homes. The cost of rent, the rent cap is still the same as when the Liberals were in place, and there has to be balance between landlords and renters. We continue to offer loans to new first-time home buyers so that they can get into a home sooner. We recognize that it is expensive to live here in Nova Scotia, so not only are we working on housing, again, by lowering taxes and finding other ways to support our residents, we'll do what we can to support that our youth so that they can live the same life that our parents had and we have.
Thank you, Nick. Zach.
Well, and it's everybody dealing with the housing crisis. Working families, two incomes coming in are having a hard time purchasing a home, affording the rent increases. We've seen rent not just go up in Halifax, but proportionally here in Yarmouth as well. I think we need to set a goal that people in Nova Scotia should not pay more than 30% of their income on their housing. Otherwise, they are going to be house broke, as people say around here. So we want to tackle that by making it more affordable to build. So, looking at rules like I know we have municipally that force developers to have provincial grade roads in small subdivisions. That might be something we have to revisit, because that puts a lot of cost on builders, and those costs are then going to carry over to the people buying the home. So we have to look at the rules in place in Nova Scotia that are increasing the costs of building and change them so that we can reduce the costs. We're going to invest in co-op housing as well as deeply affordable housing units to get more of these units on the market as quickly as possible. And I am worried about the mortgage thing that the PCs are offering. When you make debt more cheap and easy to get, you drive the price of the supply up. So if that happens, we are going to see the price of housing go up in Nova Scotia, and we are going to see mortgages thousands and thousands of dollars more
Thank you,
for
Zach.
people, and
Thank
taking
you.
years longer for young people to pay those mortgages off. And that's going to be a
Thank
problem
you, Zach.
long term.
Rebuttal?
Rebuttals?
No, I think the PC government is working with Coastal Financial Credit Union to make sure that we don't put extra strain on our youth through this process. That's not the intent. We just talked about how we were going to try to get individuals into their first home, and this is a good initiative. So we'll continue to work with our residents and the government to figure out how we can get how we can work with youth to best serve them. And as your MLA, I look forward to sitting in on those conversations.
Adam?
I think it's important for us, a great way for us to help our local economy would be to invest more into our sustainable forestry. I know there's people in the area who want to grow back the Acadian forest. But I also know that there's also people who want to clear cut all our land for profits and to shift it out. I think that this is one of our most valuable resources. This is what we should be using to build our income, our housing supply. You know, if we can log our own, take the good wood, and clear cutting makes a big impact on our climate. There's all kinds of studies that show that, you know, it matchsticks and causes forest fires if we're to leave all the deadfall there and have and grow it back with spruce instead of big maple trees. I go in back of the my trailer park and I see big 120-year-old trees that are you know, stumps that used to be there. And I think it's really important for us to, you know, look at our land and take good care of it.
Thank you, Adam. Zach?
If we're going to drive the cost of housing down, we need to reduce the cost of building. We need to look at the municipal rules that are in place that are increasing those costs. Again, like forcing every subdivision to have a provincial grade road, probably is not necessary, and is going to increase the cost of those developments substantially, which then whoever wants to buy property or rent in these areas are going to be paying more on the other end. So we are focused on a plan that's going to reduce costs for development, that is going to build more housing units to get onto the market. This is the best way that we can stabilize and reduce the costs. We also have to look at the demand side, which is how many people we have. So we've had a conservative government in place that has been driving to double the population for 3 years, I believe, for the revenue. But we have a 0% vacancy rate here in Nova Scotia. That is also driving the cost up. So we do have to manage our population growth more sustainably. I am worried about this proposal with the mortgages, so I think people who are considering this, if it does become an option, need to know that this will drive the price up for the home. It will add thousands of dollars onto individual mortgages that families will have, and years on to debt payments. I do not think this is a good plan to make housing more affordable by adding more debt and thousands of dollars and more years onto payments that families have. We have to get them out of debt sooner.
Thank you, Zach.
Next question. Nova Scotia's rent cap is still 5% per year. However, some landlords are using loopholes such as rent evictions, fixed-term leases, and doing less maintenance as ways to squeeze more value out of their properties. What can the province do to help protect these tenants and allow them to keep a roof over their heads? We realize this is a business issue, but what can the province do to ensure appropriate housing for people that need it? And Zach.
We are in a housing crisis right now. It's been driven by the population push by the Premier. And renters are getting squeezed, landlords are also getting squeezed. We are proposing the most amount of protection and support for renters, by having smarter, fairer rent regulation that's taken out of the hands of cabinet, given to an independent body to assess what the economies are, the economics are, the costs and all this to determine what the rent cap is going to be. We are also bringing in a rent bank. We're the only party willing to do this. This is zero interest loan money for people who lose their job, run into a difficult situation, and can't pay their rent. But we also want to get out of this housing crisis, and we want there to be a free housing market. So once we get to a healthy vacancy of 3%, where there's more competition, like we had, in the 20 years previous to this period, we know that we can move away from these strict regulations, and competition will do a lot of that work for us. We will also end the fixed-term lease loophole if both tenants and landlords agree to do that. So there will be a fixed-term lease for 1 year. Both parties would have to agree to continue that. That does make sense in some circumstances, but otherwise it would go to a month-to-month or a year, 2-year lease.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you. And we keep hearing about how Premier Houston is driving population growth, but the fact is population growth now is the same as it was, same rate as it was when the Liberals were in power. Our goal as a government is to bring in healthcare workers and support workers that can help deal with some of the other issues that we have. When it comes to when it comes to housing, we know that the only solution to any of these problems is building more homes, and that's what this government's working on. We know that the cost of rent will go down when housing supply goes up. So as the PC government has continued to invest in housing across the spectrum, and we'll continue to support Nova Scotians as best we can. The rent cap is the same at 5% because that's what's been fair to both renters and landlords. We know that it is expensive to live here right now, and we feel for everyone, but the fact of the matter is we need more houses, and that's what the PC government is building.
Thank you. Adam?
Yeah, I don't think this is something that we can change overnight, and the way we need to change this is by having investing in builders and investing in giving people the opportunity to build, and we've got lots of land here that's we could develop and to create more supply, and more supply puts cost down. As far as the cap goes, I myself personally, I don't put up the rent. I haven't been taking advantage of the extra 5% I could be asking for. I see lots of people put out on the streets, and it's a really sad situation that it needs some attention, and there's no easy answer for this, but it's something that may take 20 years to do, unless there's a big contribution into spending in this sector.
Thank you. Rebuttal? Zach?
Well, just on the population. I mean, we've needed to talk about that honestly, because it's not a pro-immigration policy to burst our capacity at the seams. So if we want to set people up for success here who are moving, and make sure that we look after folks that have been living here, we do have to manage that growth responsibly. So, I mean, it's interesting to hear how the Conservatives have been talking about this now, because for the last 3 years, Tim Houston, I think in front of even some people here, has been saying, we're going to double the population. We had population going down until we got in office, and we're going to double the population. Now that he realizes he's made a mistake, they're now saying it's the same as it's always been. That's not true. The province has limited control over this, but it is in the provincial nomination process. So if you look at the documents that are available publicly there, the province this government has been nominating twice as many people to come to Nova Scotia as the department itself says is sustainable. That's where we see the issue. And it's not healthcare workers and skilled trade workers. They're explicit about who's coming in their documents. Healthcare workers and skilled trade workers make up less than 3% of people who are coming here and less than 14% of people who the province is nominating. So we do have to adjust those numbers because we need time to catch up with housing, and we do have to deal with the demand side, the population growth in the interim.
Thank you. Rebuttal?
I've taken on some skilled workers in my roofing, and they're really appreciative to be here. And you know, a lot of things that we may take for granted, they appreciate and are so grateful. I'm really lucky to have brought you know, some Spanish people in here, and I find the Spanish people are really good, and they've helped my company grow because they had the skills where I did not have to teach them. So you know, it's really good that that this opportunity is here for us, and they're training my people here now. So this has been, you know, like, I may just be part of the 3% who bring in the skilled trade workers, but the people, you know, coming from Argentina and Peru, they've had corrupt governments who gave out lots of money, and then their government collapsed because of this. And all of a sudden, you know, they're in a position where they don't have anything. You know, Argentina used to be a very prosperous country, but you know, the corruption took over, and you know, they're really grateful for all the opportunities that we have here that we may not realize.
Thank you.
Our next question pertains to the cost of living. And according to a 2022 report by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, nearly 50% of Nova Scotians earn less than the living wage. When you take rent, transportation, groceries, and other essential services into consideration, what can your team do to help close this gap and relieve some of the huge stress off the shoulders of the average Nova Scotian? And we'll start with Nick.
Thank you. Cost of living, you know, when I was elected to municipal council 4 years ago, the biggest problem we had is we didn't have a pool. And we've since rectified that. But when we're running this time around provincially or municipally, the biggest thing at the table is cost of living. And we know it's expensive to live in Nova Scotia right now. This government is focused on keeping more money in your pocket. We're doing that. We've talked about this all day, actually. That's the common theme across this table today, is that cost of living affects everything, and each party has initiatives to do that. The 1% HST cut, the indexing of tax brackets, things like the Seniors Care Grant, things like simple things like the cost of parking at Nova Scotia Health Hospitals. All those things put a little bit more money back in individuals' pockets so that they can hopefully take the vacation they need, or pay a light bill, or buy groceries. And this Nova Scotia government, the PC government, is going to continue to work on things like healthcare, but continue to support each resident. And we need to focus on doing that here in Yarmouth especially. And we'll do that by having an MLA that spends as much time as possible here helping the individuals of Yarmouth. And
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Adam.
It's a shame that it costs to live. You know, I feel that, you know, we're created to, you know, live off the land, and you know, if we were to be a little bit closer to that, maybe we wouldn't have all these problems that we have. I think you know, we talk about trying to get the GST, you know, down 1 or 2%. You know, I'd like to see our province be prosperous and not have to pay any tax. You know, I feel that this is something possible, right? That'd be great. And you know, if we're creating our own food, and you know, the government doesn't ask for money for food. You know, it asks for money for all our possessions and all these things. So if we were to be a little less greedy, maybe, you know, the cost of living would be driven down by, you know, our need for the government. So I feel it's important, if we want to get the cost of living down, everybody has to take a little bit of responsibility and depend a little bit less on the government. And then, instead of blaming the government for everything, we need to take a good look at ourselves and be accountable for our own actions.
Thank you, Adam. Zach?
So if you compare the tax adjustments proposed by all three parties, and all three parties are going after some lower taxes, ours is by far the most generous. So for the PC, and people should know the numbers, for the PC tax cuts, you're going to save about $850 a year. With ours, it's going to be $3,000. So we're tackling this in a number of different ways. Income tax, reducing the amount of income tax by pushing up the basic exemption to $15,700, reducing the HST by 2 percentage points. Those are the 2 percentage points that the NDP would have put on back in 2009, and taking HST off the rest of groceries. Food is a major cost for families, for seniors, for everybody right now. We're taking the HST off the rest of groceries that you currently still pay HST on, but we're also going to bring more competition to the grocery market. Right now, independent grocers can't compete in the same neighborhoods that the larger grocery chains can. They have restrictive covenants. We're going to go after those, invest in those independent grocers, the ones that are actually selling more locally sourced food, to make sure we have more competition over the long run that will also help stabilize and reduce grocery costs. And I'll get to the other affordability measures in the rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Nick?
Yeah, it has to be a fine balance. It has to be a balance between continuing to do the things that the residents need, like focus on healthcare and balancing the cost of living. We know that our platform, being fully costed, looks at both lowering taxes, keeping more doctors, and trying to provide a higher living wage for the individuals and residents of Nova Scotia. I find it we've also added things like the school lunch program, where 255 schools are receiving the ability for their students to receive a healthy school lunch. And, that's something that helps out residents, families in Nova Scotia by being able to keep a little bit more money in their pockets. And this is something that the Liberals voted against. We've talked about infrastructure and the gravel infrastructure, investing in roads. We doubled the gravel road budget over the last few years. The Liberals voted against that. Seniors Care Grant, the Liberals voted against that. Even fixed election dates, which is what we heard on the radio for the last 3 weeks, Liberals voted against that. So it's easy to not be in government and tell everyone what they should be doing, but it's different when you have a platform that you're working through, that you're making sound investments, and you're seeing
Thank you,
results
Nick.
with.
Thank you. Adam?
Rebuttal? For the cost of living? Yeah, like I previously said, there's all kinds of ways to reduce our cost of living. It feels like, a lot of people are caught in in just the routine, and they don't see, a way out, and it's important I feel that's important for the government to keep everybody working so that they can keep on generating revenue from people's works. And I find, when it comes to, getting more people working, it's a way for the government to get more money, and I feel that it's a bit of a cycle that we need to slowly get out of. I don't think it's important. I think we can get by without having every man, woman, and child in the labor force. One thing that the government thinks is very important is the GPI, and that's how much money is produced. But this shouldn't be how we judge this shouldn't be how we judge how prosperous we are. There's other things than how much money people make to show how healthy a community can be.
Thank you, Adam. Zach?
So we actually began negotiating the lunch program when we were in government. And had we remained in government, that lunch program would have been free. And we wouldn't have been asking families who are already paying taxes to help cover the cost of that program. And the current government is leaving millions of dollars that should be here from the federal government on the table because Mr. Houston knows Justin Trudeau's not popular, and his political persona now is built around being an antagonist toward Justin Trudeau, which is preventing serious amounts of federal dollars to come into our province to invest in things like the Isthmus, like the school lunch program. And I have to say, Dick's right. We did vote against a fixed election date for the summer of July 2025. We thought a fall would be a better date. Do you remember who voted for it? Every PC MLA in that House. And yet here we are in November, and you'll see the Liberal campaign jackets are all fixed election date, thin windbreaker jackets, and the PC jackets are pretty heavy fall, winter jackets. That's the difference between keeping your word and not keeping your word. Folks know me in this community. I believe in what we're running on. I have conviction on this. I'm not running just to get power and then not go through with what I'm telling you we're going to do. I'll keep my word to you. People in this community know I'm honest and that I will do what I say I'm going to do.
Thank you, Zach.
So your answers to the last question are probably a good segue to this next question. A number of Nova Scotians are experiencing food insecurity, and whilst the recent school lunch program aims to help kids, we see that use of food banks is growing at an exponential rate, and 1/3 of clients are children. All of this while almost 20% of the clients saying they have a job, and well over 50% of clients saying they are living check to check. What can and should the Nova Scotia government do to help the average Nova Scotian to help with being secure in their communities? Adam.
What I'd like to see is more local farmers. I'd like to see, right now, if all our supply chains were cut off, I don't think Yarmouth would have enough, would not be able to supply enough food to sustain its people. So, you know, I think that this is something that we need to do. We've got some land, and we need to, you know, nurture it and grow, and then, you know, if there's abundance of food, that will help us out there. I find it so silly that food's unaffordable when we've got earth right all around us, and you know, I find it's you know, silly that houses are unaffordable when, you know, we should be making the investment into building our own infrastructure. So, you know, if we're relying on people bringing in this food, I don't think it's healthy for our community. You know, last time I ran, I said food, shelter, and recovery, right? And, you know, it's the same message that I have this time around. You know, we need to kind of recover from, you know, just a lot of these misconceptions that we believe to be true in what we need to do to live and what a good life is and having a good job. You know, I find that a lot of my workers are really happy being out in the elements, building, and they'd also be, a lot of people would be would be happy, you know, growing their own food.
Thank you. Zach?
This is a big, scary issue that's affecting a lot of people. It's affecting families, mental health outcomes. So we need to tackle this in a systematic way by lowering and going after the costs of groceries that are for sale, but also by investing in the organizations that are there for people to provide them food when they need it. I wouldn't have given $1 million to Sobeys for Scene Points. I would have given that money to Feed Nova Scotia and to food banks and to farmers markets to help them get food that is desperately needed into the hands of the people that need it. There's incredible organizations locally. I can think of Brenda Hattie and the amount of meals that wonderful lady locally has gotten into on the tables that of people that need it. That's where we need to put the money on those emergency related issues. Also make sure that we have less food waste. So a lot of food in our agriculture sector that it isn't, you know, fit for the store shelves will either get buried back into the soil or discarded. We need to actually grab that food, locally produced, purchase it, and make sure that that is then redistributed to people as well. We brought a tax credit in to help with that. It didn't go far enough, so we want to change that next time we're in government.
Thank you. Nick?
Thank you. Again, we're back to cost of living and supporting ourselves and our families, and we know, as the current PC government knows, that it's, again, just too expensive to live here. And when we're looking at the price of food, you know, that's gone up over the last 3 years. You know, part of that's related to us being overtaxed. You know, products like a gas tax are applied to farmers, to transport trucks, to producers, to the producers that ship it to the grocery store, the grocery stores that, and then me when I go to pick it up. So we as a government need to find alternative solutions, like removing the gas tax on all products to make those products more available to our residents. And our PC government continues to invest in local organizations. I know Acts of Kindness here receives a generous donation from the PC government, well-deserved donation from the PC government, and they have served, I believe, over 50 or 70,000 meals to local residents. We seen last weekend what they were capable of. Is truly amazing work that they're doing, and they have used some of those funds to install food closets across Yarmouth County. So the government will continue to support local organizations to do some of that work. We've also invested in the program that Zach talked about with investing in local products. Sorry.
Thank you. So, rebuttal? Anyone? Go ahead.
So cost of food is one thing, and we have to go after that. But my God, we've got to deal with this food insecurity issue. And other costs are piling up on people, which are making this situation worse. A big cost for a lot of households is power right now. We've seen power rates, again, for the first time in 10 years, shoot up by close to 20%. This is creating additional financial stress on everybody. It's creating situations in some households even that have two incomes coming in on what kind of food they're able to purchase, and other decisions they're making as a family as well. We've got a plan to tackle this. One issue I do have is that, I mean, the current government is doing a lot of wind energy. It's the cheapest form of energy right now. My problem with it is that it's all being used to be shipped overseas in green hydrogen for Europe. Energy prices are so high in Nova Scotia right now because we're still burning the same amount of coal that we burnt 3 years ago, and it's very, very expensive. I think when we're looking at long-term energy solutions to Nova Scotia, we've got to get off expensive coal. We've got to apply wind energy to our own grid, reduce our emissions, and more importantly for each household, reduce power bills. And again, our plan on for the cap and trade system to replace the carbon tax will give families more rebate money to invest in the efficiency programs that will then further reduce their power bills.
Okay. So we're going to move to closing comments from the candidates. Start off with Nick.
Thank you, and thank you for having us all here today. It's been a real pleasure. You know, over the next 4 years, Yarmouth needs to decide what it's going to look like over the next 4 years. I feel like the province has already decided what type of government we're going to have, and we need to decide as a group if we're going to be at the government table or not. Zach has been a good representative of Yarmouth, but he did sit next to the previous premier for 8 years, and there's questions around what really we have done in Yarmouth in that time. So as your MLA, I look forward to working with the Houston government to continue to focus on healthcare. As a nurse, like I said, I've seen significant progress in the past 3 years. I know it's slow, but significant progress. As your MLA, I look forward to trying to bring as much funding and infrastructure money back here to Yarmouth so that we can continue to work and build up Yarmouth. The PC government is proud of the investments it's made here in Nova Scotia in the last 3 years. We are proud of the people and the communities we represent. And again, as your MLA, I will continue to support the residents of Yarmouth and make sure that we get what we are deserving. The residents of Yarmouth aren't looking for more government deals. They're looking for a government
department back in 2019 that's been delayed for 3 years because of politics. And I want to lead a government that's not just going to invest in this community, but to invest in this entire province in a way that is going to bring relief to people right now, but also set our kids up for success over the long run. And we have a plan to do that I'm very hopeful in, that I think can give hope back to people who are struggling and who are losing hope right now. We need to make these changes. And as your MLA, I've never been someone that has sat in front of you and read out party messages or speaking notes. I've always spoke to you straight, and I have not been the party's voice or the government's voice here. I have been Yarmouth's voice to the government and to the party. And that meant sometimes I had to fight Stephen, who's a scary man to fight. I had to push back against the current Prime Minister. But you know what? I don't think we need to fight anymore in this area. I think it's our turn to lead this province here in Yarmouth for the first time. And Tim Houston and all his candidates might think the votes are already in, but this election is 1 week away, folks, and we are not taking any votes for granted like they are. We are working to earn your votes until the end of this election, and I certainly hope to have your support. Thank you.
Adam?
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to, help out the Green Party have some publicity. I haven't been doing the hard work as like these gentlemen have, but I'm really grateful for everything that Yarmouth has given me. There is opportunity here, and it's important for us to take advantage of the opportunities that we do have. We need to work hard together so we can have a community that's strong. I'd like to continue to grow the Green Party. If people will take the time out of their day to give us an X on the ballot, this helps us with funding. Every vote, gives a little bit of money towards the Green Party, and I feel it's really important for diversity in our politics. So we're not just a two-party system or three or right now there's only 3 different parties and a couple independents in there. So thank you, Yarmouth, for everything that you've done for me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate these gentlemen for coming out, and I know they both want to see Yarmouth do good for her. All right.
Thank you very much to Liberal leader Zach Churchill, Progressive Conservative candidate Nick Hilton, and Green Party candidate Adam Randall for being here today to take part in the debate. And a big thank you to our sponsor today, the Nova Scotia Realtor Association, also to Eastlink Community TV, Mile East Productions, Nick Doucette, and all of our volunteers behind the scenes. And thank you to Jamie for being here as well.
Thank you.